The entire entertainment world trembled when the shocking news of Wang Yibo's accident broke. Fans flooded social media with disbelief. Hashtags exploded across every platform, and millions held their breath, desperate for a single confirmation. Was it true? Was the multi-talented superstar, the racing enthusiast, and beloved actor really involved in a tragic crash? But amid the panic, one question echoed louder than the rest. Was Xiao Zhan there when it happened? The rumor spread like wildfire. Some claimed Xiao Zhan had been seen near the scene. Others said he was the one who called for help. The truth, as it turns out, is even more extraordinary and deeply emotional. The evening began quietly. Wang Yibo had just wrapped up a private shoot for a sports brand, his energy still buzzing from the adrenaline of the day. The sky above Beijing shimmered with streaks of pink and orange, the kind of twilight that promised peace after chaos. According to an insider close to Yibo's team, he had been planning to meet someone special that evening, someone he hadn't seen in weeks due to their conflicting schedules. That someone, fans would later discover, was none other than Xiao Zhan. It was supposed to be a private reunion. No cameras, no red carpets, no managers hovering around. Just two friends sharing dinner after months apart. But fate had a different plan. Wang Yibo, ever the thrill-seeker, chose to ride his motorbike to the meeting spot. He always said riding helped him think, that the hum of the engine and the wind against his face cleared his mind better than any meditation ever could. Xiao Zhan, on the other hand, was already waiting at a quiet restaurant tucked behind the Hanlinar district, one of their favorite hideouts where they could talk without being recognized. Minutes ticked by. Yibo was supposed to arrive at 8 p.m. At 8:15, he still hadn't shown up. At 8:30, Xiao Zhan grew restless. His phone vibrated with unread messages, but none from Yibo. Then, suddenly, he received a call. Not from Yibo, but from an unknown number. The next words froze him completely. There's been an accident. Eyewitnesses later reported seeing a sleek green motorcycle skidding off the side of the road near a bridge, sparks flying as metal clashed against asphalt. The crash was fierce, the kind that silences everything around it. A passerby, who recognized Yibo moments before the fall, said he had been swerving to avoid another vehicle that abruptly cut in front of him. In that split second of reaction, his skill wasn't enough to save him from the cruel hand of fate. When Xiao Zhan arrived at the scene, escorted by his driver, chaos reigned. Police lights painted the night in flashes of blue and red. Fans and onlookers were beginning to gather, their voices merging into a low, anxious hum. And then, there he was, Wang Yibo, unconscious, a streak of blood marking his temple, his helmet shattered at the edge of the road. Xiao Zhan's heart stopped. He ran toward him without thinking, pushing past the officers and medics, shouting for him to step back. His voice cracked as he called Yibo's name, again and again, but Yibo didn't answer. For a moment, it felt as though time itself had stopped. The two stars who once shared stages, screens, and millions of hearts were now caught in a scene no one could have scripted. Xiao Zhan knelt beside him, trembling, his hands hovering just above Yibo's chest, as if afraid that touching him might make him vanish completely. "Hold on," Xiao Zhan whispered, his eyes glassy. "Please don't do this." In the hours that followed, Xiao Zhan refused to leave the hospital. Cameras caught glimpses of him in the emergency wing, his face pale and weary, his eyes red. Staff who were present said he stayed silent most of the time, only breaking down once, when the doctors finally came out and said Yibo was in stable condition. That single word, stable, changed everything. Outside, hundreds of fans gathered, holding banners and candles, singing softly into the night. The bond between Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan had always fascinated the world, from their undeniable chemistry in the untamed to their rare but meaningful public interactions. But that night, the friendship people once speculated about became something far deeper, a connection forged in fire, fear, and unwavering loyalty. When Yibo finally regained consciousness days later, the first person he reportedly asked for was Xiao Zhan. Nurses recalled that his voice was weak, barely above a whisper, but the emotion in it was unmistakable. "Is Xiao Zhan here?" he murmured. Yes, he was. He had been there every single day, sitting quietly by his bedside, refusing interviews, refusing rest. To him, it wasn't about fame or headlines. It was about being there for a friend, a brother, a bond that transcended stardom. Later, a staff member leaked that the accident had left Yibo shaken but not defeated. During one of their private conversations, Xiao Zhan told him, "You scared everyone. You know that? You can't keep living on the edge like this." Yibo smiled faintly, his voice raspy but steady. "Guess I need someone to keep me grounded then." Those who overheard described the atmosphere as tender, emotional, two men bound by shared history and silent understanding. For years, fans had adored their chemistry, their playful glances, and their effortless teamwork. But this was different. This was real, raw, and unscripted. Behind closed doors, Xiao Zhan helped Yibo through his recovery. From the first painful steps out of bed to quiet evenings where they'd just talk, laugh, or sit in silence. At times, Yibo's frustration boiled over. "Why me?" he'd ask. Xiao Zhan would simply place a hand on his shoulder and say, "Because even the strongest need to fall once, to rise stronger." That line spread like wildfire when fans heard it from a nurse who had witnessed the moment. It became a symbol of resilience, friendship, and unbreakable faith between two souls who had already endured so much in the public eye. Weeks passed, and the rumors began to calm. But one video clip surfaced, blurry, shaky, and just a few seconds long. It showed Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo leaving the hospital together. Yibo wearing sunglasses and a black hoodie, Xiao Zhan gently guiding him into a car. That single moment broke the internet. Fans worldwide began using the hashtag together through it all, a tribute not only to Yibo's recovery, but to the powerful connection that kept him from falling apart. People who once saw their bond as a publicity strategy now saw something pure, something that transcended fame, rumors, and celebrity culture. Xiao Zhan never spoke publicly about what he saw that night. But in a later interview, when asked what the most terrifying moment of his life had been, he paused, looked down, and simply said, "The moment I thought I lost someone I couldn't afford to lose." The interviewer didn't need to ask who. Everyone already knew. Now, as Wang Yibo slowly returns to his projects, fans can't help but notice a shift in his demeanor, in his words, in the quiet strength he carries. And beside him, in spirit if not always in sight, stands Xiao Zhan, the man who refused to leave when everything seemed lost. Whether fate placed them together that night by coincidence or destiny, one thing is certain. When the world came crashing down, Xiao Zhan was there, not as a co-star, not as a celebrity, but as the heartbeat that refused to give up. The night was darker than usual, heavy clouds swallowing the moonlight, as if nature itself sensed that something terrible was about to happen. The streets glistened from an earlier drizzle, and the distant hum of city life echoed faintly through the air. At that very moment, Xiao Zhan sat in the quiet corner of the restaurant they'd chosen, a secluded spot with soft lighting, the faint aroma of jasmine tea filling the air. He glanced at his phone again. No messages, no calls, just silence. He smiled to himself, trying to stay calm. "He's probably taking his time," he muttered under his breath. But deep down, something didn't feel right. Wang Yibo was never late without a reason. Outside, the wind picked up, howling between buildings. Xiao Zhan sipped his tea, his gaze lost in thought, until his phone suddenly lit up. An unknown number. Hesitation flickered across his face before he answered. "Hello." The next few words hit him like a thunderclap. "Are you close to the bridge near the Hanlin district? Your friend, he's been in an accident." The phone slipped slightly from his hand. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. "What? What did you just say?" he demanded, his voice trembling. The voice on the other end spoke hurriedly. "It's Wang Yibo. He's hurt." That was all Xiao Zhan needed to hear. Without another word, he bolted from the restaurant, his coat flying behind him, his mind spinning. The drive felt endless, each red light like a curse, each minute like an eternity. His driver tried to calm him, but Xiao Zhan's only words were, "Faster. Please, faster." When he finally arrived, the scene was chaos. Red and blue lights painted the night like a broken dream. The smell of burnt rubber and metal filled the air. A crowd had already formed, whispers, gasps, the occasional sob. And then he saw the shattered motorcycle. The green and black machine lay mangled at the edge of the road, its once beautiful form now unrecognizable. "Where is he?" Xiao Zhan's voice broke through the crowd. A paramedic turned. "Sir, you can't." But Xiao Zhan didn't listen. His eyes scanned wildly until they found him. Wang Yibo, lying on the stretcher, unconscious, a streak of blood tracing his cheek. For a moment, everything around Xiao Zhan went silent. He rushed forward, dropping to his knees beside the stretcher. "Yibo, hey, it's me. Can you hear me?" His hands trembled as he reached out, brushing Yibo's cold fingers. There was no answer. Tears blurred his vision, but he didn't care who saw. The world could watch. None of it mattered now. All he wanted was for his friend to open his eyes. One of the medics gently touched his shoulder. "Sir, we need to move him now." "Let me go with him," Xiao Zhan said firmly. His voice was low, but filled with determination. They didn't argue. They saw it in his eyes, the fear, the desperation. At the hospital, time lost all meaning. The beeping of machines, the smell of antiseptic, the flickering lights, it all blurred together. Xiao Zhan paced back and forth, unable to sit still. His manager called him repeatedly, his phone buzzing nonstop, but he ignored every call. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, a doctor emerged. "Are you family?" I'm a close friend," Xiao Zhan stammered. The doctor sighed softly. "He's stable now. It was close, a concussion, some bruising, but no major fractures. He'll need rest." For the first time in hours, Xiao Zhan exhaled. His legs gave out slightly as relief washed over him. "Thank you," he whispered, eyes glistening. When he was finally allowed into the room, he stood quietly by the bed, watching Yibo's chest rise and fall. The rhythmic sound of the heart monitor felt like a song of hope. He pulled a chair closer and sat down, his hand gently wrapping around Yibo's. "You scared me, you idiot," he whispered with a faint smile. "Always trying to be fast, huh? Couldn't wait even one more minute." The silence in the room felt heavy, yet comforting. Xiao Zhan stayed there all night, refusing to leave. Staff members brought him water and blankets, but he hardly noticed. His focus was entirely on Yibo. At one point, he reached into his pocket and found Yibo's phone. It had been handed to him by the medics. The screen was cracked, but still working. Dozens of missed messages from Xiao Zhan flashed on it. "Where are you? Are you coming?" He stared at the screen, a single tear sliding down his cheek. "I was waiting for you, Ba," he murmured. "I'll keep waiting." When morning came, sunlight streamed through the blinds, golden and warm. Xiao Zhan was still there, his head resting on his arm beside the bed. And then, a faint movement. "Zhan!" Xiao Zhan's eyes snapped open. For a second, he thought he imagined it. But when he looked up, Wang Yibo's eyes were half open, weak but alive. "Ba," he gasped, leaning closer. "Don't move, okay? You're in the hospital." Yibo blinked slowly, his voice barely audible. "You came." "Of course I came," Xiao Zhan said, a shaky laugh escaping him. "Where else would I be?" A faint smile tugged at Yibo's lips. "You always show up at the right time." Xiao Zhan chuckled softly, trying to hide his tears. "And you always find a way to scare me." That moment, small, quiet, but full of meaning, became the turning point. The bond between them, once tested by time and distance, now felt unbreakable. As Yibo recovered over the following days, Xiao Zhan stayed by his side. Fans and media speculated endlessly, but none of that mattered. Behind those hospital walls, it wasn't about fame or image. It was about two people who had faced the unthinkable and found comfort in each other's presence. Weeks later, when Yibo was discharged, he made his first public appearance, low-key, wearing a mask and hoodie. But fans who looked closely noticed Xiao Zhan walking just a few steps behind, quietly protective. When reporters asked if Xiao Zhan had been there during the accident, Yibo smiled softly and said, "He was where he always is, by my side when I needed him most." Those words went viral instantly. The internet erupted with love and admiration, not just for their talent, but for their loyalty, their friendship, and their unspoken bond. The night of the accident would forever be remembered, not just as a tragedy, but as a story of courage, connection, and the kind of friendship that defies fame and fear. Because sometimes it's not about who you stand with during the spotlight. It's about who stands with you in the dark. And for Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo, that night proved it all. Sparkles if you were touched by this powerful continuation of Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo's story. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more breathtaking and emotional updates about your favorite stars. Stay tuned. There's more to come.